Hey Molly, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
Not bad. I really want to hear about your recent trip because you got back not too long ago, right? How was
Yes.
that?
It was good, but also honestly not so good because I have
Wait,
been on
wait.
like
Tell the listeners where you went.
okay, I went to Bangkok in Thailand. So we traveled by motorcycle and I've been to I've sat on the back of a few motorcycles like in Bali and in Chiang Mai and Taiwan, but like the smaller, it's not really a small city. It's kind of a big city, but also not as much traffic. And in Bangkok, I was like, whoa, this is so different. It was like the roads were kind of bumpy. Not the roads were kind of bumpy, but there was like a bump sometimes on the highway or freeway. And by the
A
end of every
bump
day, I
on
was
the highway? Wait,
too
wait, what?
like on the highway. It was like my body was like, you know. Um, Sounds so dramatic, but by the end of every day, I just fell asleep so fast. I normally do not fall asleep that fast, but I feel like my body was just so tired. And by the third day, I just like stayed in the whole day because I was like, my body aches and my legs ache
All
too
because of the
because
motorbike and
no,
like,
also because of the walking. So
oh,
something about me that apparently I have not learned my lesson yet is I don't stretch before long walks.
okay,
Or
neither do I, honestly, but like,
when your legs don't hurt after the
oh yeah,
long
of
walk.
course they do, but like I don't think to like stretch. But that's a good idea. Maybe I should do that for my upcoming trip. But
Yeah, like the only time
keep
I
going.
really have stretched in my life is whenever I work out sometimes, or back when I was in high school, I had like this running year, and I learned I had to stretch probably the hard way. Probably like there was one day when my legs hurt really bad, and I was like, okay, gotta take the stretching seriously. It's not just a recommendation; it's an actual thing that you have to do. Um, but the food was really good, and the night markets were really good too. Um, I ended up getting two cat shirts that are really cute. Wait, no, one is a cat, and then I think, oh wait, no, they're both cats. Um, and yeah, apparently I really like shopping in Thailand. So if people also like shopping, then that's a good place to do it. And I'm like, what else did we do in
You did
Thailand?
like
Oh yeah, the
massages, right?
I actually only got one massage. I think because, okay, our massages, when your body is aching, isn't supposed to loosen it up and make it feel better? Because it actually kind of ended up, like, it felt better the day of, and then the day after, it felt so much worse. But I don't know if that's because of the massage or the walking or combination.
Right. Okay. Wait. Okay. No, that's just really funny because I remember when, like, before your trip, you were telling me that you were gonna get so many massages, and so I'm just really surprised you only did one. But like, now having context of like how much your body was aching from like walking and like
Yeah.
the bikes and stuff. So like overall, you said good and bad. Would you go back?
I would, but I would definitely take the public transport next time. I know that you can't go to as many places, but honestly, I feel like most of the major attractions that we went to could have been, you could have gone by public transport. It might have taken you a bit longer, but honestly, with the traffic and with all the bumps in the road, I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take the public transport.
Man, you're not selling it for me. Like,
I,
do they
I
not
don't
have
know.
trains? Like it's just buses?
No, that's what I'm saying. The trains, yeah, I would definitely 100% take the trains. So we actually did take the train the day before we came back, and I loved the train experience. Their AC was like blasting. I love the cold, so for me it was a thumbs up. For everyone else, I don't know.
Oh my god, the irony. You love the cold and now you live in Malaysia. Like, I
I know
can't.
it's like hot and humid. I feel like there's two weathers here. There's hot and humid. Wait, no, there's rainy and then there's more rainy, but like it's always hot and humid.
Yep, that's an accurate.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty accurate. Being from Malaysia and having visited a couple times for family. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay,
um,
so what about you? I know that you have a trip coming up to Japan. Are you excited for that?
Right. So, okay. Well, I think I told you like last week or a couple of weeks ago that I was like a bit nervous, and I'll kind
Yeah.
of, but let me give the listener some context for like this. So, I'm preparing. Actually, this is the day before I leave for Japan. I'll be in Tokyo for like 2 weeks to wrap out this year. The like the intention of the trip is to celebrate my little sister's graduation from 2020. So my family had planned a trip for her post grad that year, and then it didn't pan out, obviously. And then last year, me, my sister, my mom and dad, were actually in Malaysia, like visiting family, and May was complaining to me. She was like, "Man, like every time we do like a trip to Asia, we always go to Malaysia because mom and dad are just like, if we're gonna spend all this money, all this time traveling, like why would we go anywhere else? Like we don't want to go anywhere else. We just want to visit family in Malaysia, which from their point of view makes perfect sense because they're actually close with their family and like we're just like the estranged like cousins or whatever that like we don't have much
Yeah.
connection, so we're like we're not married to Malaysia, like we feel like whatever about Malaysia. um and then so basically out of that conversation, May was just like lamenting the fact that she feels like she'll never go to Japan, or like she'll have to do it alone, which she does not prefer, just due to her personality. And I was like, heck, I'll bring you to Japan. So this was like a year ago. We've been planning Japan for a year, which is probably the most in advance I like plan anything. um but we're going to Tokyo, and and then afterwards, I'm flying straight to Mexico City. Back to Mexico City. This will be like my fourth or fifth time there. I've built a community there, and my friends keep asking me when I'll go back, and I'm just like, okay, fine, I'm coming back. So I'll be there from the 30th of December until the 24th of February, and then on the 24th of February, we are going to Puerto Vallarta because I wanted to live in PV for about a month before our retreat, the at the end, from like the our retreat, which is like the week of the 25th to the 29th. Because I figured that like I didn't want all us girls to arrive at the same time with like no context. I was
Yeah.
like, let me go ahead and just kind of like get a lay of the land, like figure out where the good food spots are, where's like the best beaches, like anything that like I need to learn before before everyone comes through. So I'll be there for like 5 weeks in total, right? Like a month before, and then the week of, and then afterwards I'll be back in Dallas on April
Hmm.
1st. So those are my upcoming plans. So going back to like Tokyo though, I was saying that like I was worried about it. But like I was like up until a week ago terrified because I was scared that I was going to ruin my relationship with my sister through it, because she's a weeaboo and she's like no shame about it. She'll wear anime tees and stuff with me in public, and I'm like, can you not? Like, she's like, what do you mean? Like, literally, I was like, can you not be so loud about it? Like, she was like, why are you ashamed of me? And I'm like, this is too much right now. We're calling too much attention to us. And um but generally speaking, because of like my introversion amber version, like I don't like being with people 24/7, which is probably why we designed our Healing Girl spring
Exactly.
break retreat intentionally, so that there's like a lot of time for you to be by yourself. Because we've designed the activities so that you wouldn't have to be forced to be with the group like 24/7.
Hmm.
Like you're actually meant to be like, no, I'm not a morning person, so I'm not gonna wake up to do the morning
Right.
yoga, or like, and I'm like, um, I'm definitely a morning person. So if there's anything that runs late, like I'm gonna be in bed, like bye. um, so I was worried about my trip to Tokyo because I'm like, oh my god, the reason why I'm traveling with Mei is because Mei doesn't like being alone. Like she likes shared experiences. So if she doesn't like being alone, like I'm gonna have to be with her 24/7 for 2 weeks. And like as much as I love my sister, like I've had trips in my past ruin my friendships because I spent too much time with my friend. And then like I've had like situations where I'm like, okay, I realize we're both grumpy right now, and I would go to sleep and I'll wake up and it'll be like, okay. But then I've also had situations where I've like spent so much time with the person, I realize something new about them that I've like never realized before because of like the context of traveling. And then I'm like, I don't know if I can be like as close of a friend with you post trip, which is like so bad. So because of I've had like these past experiences, I'm like, oh my god, is that gonna happen with Mei and me? And we planned this trip for a year, so I already knew about it, and like I offered, I was like, let me take you there. Want to be a good big sister. But then I think the months that like approaching December now, as it got like
Yeah.
drew closer and closer, I was like starting to dread it more and more. And like I realized I wasn't like completely conscious of it, but like it was starting to become apparent because Joseph, my husband, would ask me like, "Are you excited for Tokyo?" And I'm like, "Eh." Then I realized I was reacting like that because it's not Tokyo. Tokyo's not the problem. The problem is I was scared I was gonna ruin. I was like about to ruin my relationship with Mei, and then he was like, "Why don't you just talk to Mei about it?" And I was like, "No, no, like she's never gonna want to be alone." So I was. Anyways, I talked to her. Turns out she's okay if like we have some separate time, and I that completely 180 changed my perspective of Tokyo. Now I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm ready for like some alone time and like a foreign land. Um, so that's my upcoming trip. And then obviously I'll be in Mexico for a long time. I've been like asking Molly to come visit Mexico City for a long time. I don't know when that's gonna happen, but like eventually, maybe, questionably. Um, but
But
have to
I
say,
really oh yeah, I really do like the way that we planned our retreat because I feel like it's so important for, well, for me to have my alone time. Even if I
yeah,
love traveling with someone, I feel like having that downtime to, rest and so you have energy to do the things again.
yeah,
Whereas I think a lot of group trips, it's like activity, activity, activity. I remember when I went on these group trips with my mom when I was little, and it was like, get on the bus here, and then you're just on the bus all day, stopping at every activity that they plan. And yes, you get to rest on the bus, but also not really. So I just like I love rest when you're on vacation. I know it's a vacation and some people like to do like activity after activity and like do
yeah.
10 different activities a day, but I love having the option of like doing activity and also the option of saying no if it doesn't feel right to you.
Right. Exactly. And so like I've because of this, like I've become very intentional about like who I travel with. Um
Hmm.
and setting that boundary up front and being like, are you okay with not being together 24/7? Like can we
Yeah.
have lots of like break time where like we just go back to the like Airbnb and just like rest, or can we just like stay at a cafe and like sit for a while? Because I've noticed that like yeah, I want to walk a lot, but then because I'm walking a lot, I need to rest a lot, right? Like then I need to like sit down somewhere and like
Yeah.
just be still for a while. Younger me was definitely like, let's do activity after activity after activity. But then I realized it was not sustainable because like if I had planned a long trip, I in retrospect I realized I burnt myself out in like the first 2 or 3 days because I was doing that. I would be like stacking activities, maybe like go, and then the rest of the trip is just like this blurry fog as I'm like dragging myself through the rest of it, and I'm like, let's not do that again.
Yeah.
Let's be self-aware and like grow from like past pains. Um so yeah, I think it's gonna be really fun and like really restorative for that reason in Puerto Vallarta, and I am really grateful that we have like the agency to design our trips like that. Because again, like going back to when I was not self-aware or when I didn't have experience, so I didn't know to like sustain and maintain my energy throughout a trip, and I would just like accidentally waste it all up front. um
Yeah.
that like I'm really grateful that now I have that awareness to be like, hey, this is how I can, these are different ways I can design a trip. And you can design it so that it's like restorative, or you can design it so it's more adventurous and like draining, but it's like only a weekend, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like you can also
Uh,
have that mix of like restorative, but also have a bit of adventure, right? Because I think we're
right.
doing a
Yeah.
taco walk, aren't we? A taco crawl.
Yes. That's, you definitely put that in there. So we are
I'm
doing that.
very excited for the taco. I love tacos. Everyone like who knows me knows I love tacos. I was in Mexico, and every time I was like, "This is my last taco that I'm ever gonna eat here," and then the next day I'm like at a taco shop.
Oh
They're
my
so
gosh.
good. They're so good. I don't know.
I agree. I agree for sure. And like there's like so many variety of them too. So like if you can just like keep changing it up, like the types of meats and stuff that you put in them and such.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I also wanted to talk about gratitude, and I've kind of already started dipping into this topic because I mean we are in the middle of December, but you know, November is typically the month of in the US at least, like
Yeah.
gratitude thanks to Thanksgiving, but it's always is I think it's just good hygiene to always practice gratitude regardless of what time of the year we're in, or like what phase of life we're in, because of like the benefits for like optimism, but then also your outlook, right? So I wanted to ask like how you view the relationship between like travel and gratitude. Have you experienced that recently? Did you experience it in your this like recent trip of yours? And or do you have examples from like any past trips?
Yeah, I still remember the first time I traveled by myself, both within the country and also without. So, the first time I traveled within the country was to Alaska. I went on a 2 week cruise by myself, and I did not know that people in their 20s did not go on cruises like this. I thought I was gonna meet, other people in their 20s. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, of course, it's obvious that there wouldn't be because you're taking 2 weeks off and you're also going to a very cold place as opposed to like most people might want to go to Mexico or like to some, you know, oh, a lot of people go to Florida for spring break, right? And
Right.
so
Yeah.
instead, I was like, let me go somewhere super cold where it's icy and you have to wear like a winter coat. But I just remember, I remember being so grateful to be able to like go on that trip and meet people from like other walks of life. Um,
Yeah.
I remember because I went to the happy hour every day, so I met like the CFO who worked at a hospital. I met this professor at this university, and then I just met like a bunch of different people who had lived like more life experiences and be able to learn from
Yeah.
them and just like hear other people live their lives because I think at that point in my life I just like wasn't really sure what options there were and to be able
Right.
to just like I don't know meet other people and it was also around the time of my birthday and I remember like I told everyone it's like no I don't really feel like celebrating my birthday I'm just going to go take a nap and then literally I went to my room and I was like wait no I do want to celebrate my birthday so I went around the ship finding like all of my friends and some people couldn't make it but around like 5 or 6 people joined me for dinner that night so it was like really nice and yeah. So
Wow, that's so incredible.
yeah, that trip taught me a lot. I still can't believe I went to a whole 2 week cruise by myself. It was like my first trip. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna be alone for 2 weeks because I think at that point in my life I was like very codependent on my parents too.
Mm,
And then my next trip, like internationally, I ended up being abroad for like 5 or 6 months. And at that point, I was also like very codependent on my parents too. But I feel like that was the first time I kind of learned how to do things by myself. I learned like
mm,
because when you're in a new country, you kind of just have to learn everything by yourself, and so that kind of taught
right.
me more about myself, but also more about the way the world works. And I also met a lot of like very helpful people. and just
Yeah.
um people who like welcome you into their home. We were actually talking about this before the call, but there's this Facebook group called GGI Girls Gone International, or like Girl Gone International, and I met this group of girls in Copenhagen, and then we ended up having, I think it was a holiday brunch, but I can't remember which holiday it was, and I don't know, it was just like very nice, like meeting others who also came from different walks of life, because there were some people who had moved there and just started a whole new life there, and it was so crazy to me. Like, I know we travel, but it's like moving your whole life and then saying,
Yeah.
this is where I am now. um
Yeah.
so yeah, I feel like experience like that just give me perspective that, oh yeah, you can start over anytime you want, or you can like change, decide to do something different with your life at any time. So I feel like that's
Wow.
like
I
very much.
Right, right, right. No, I think that's like the exact reason why I love like talking to people in general. And I
Mhm.
think it's probably highly correlated to the reason why I love traveling. But I love learning other people's stories. And that's why I run the podcast, Don't Be Strangers, so that I could like just talk to random strangers and um learn how they got to where they are and their hopes for the future, because I find that the most like unexpected pivots in people's stories are like the most inspiring, because it implies that you just like never know what incredible things could be happening to you next. And so I think that's so cool that like both of these trips that you highlighted kind of like um basically point out the fact that like when you put yourself out in the world in well, it doesn't have to be specifically in travel, but I think that travel does expedite this to allow you to
Mhm.
like meet people outside of your comfort zone, because essentially what happens during travel is like everyone's outside of their comfort zone if you're meeting like another traveler, for example. But even if you're meeting like a locals are like
Mhm.
intrigued by you because you're like outside of their comfort zone, right? They're not like, okay, you're not from here, like what are you doing here? It just like it's so easy to start conversations because of it. And I think
Mhm.
that's really beautiful. The other thing that you pointed out too was that like the ways that travel can teach you more about yourself and like your capabilities. And I definitely felt that myself too. And just like having to overcome challenges on the road or just like small hiccups, and then realizing that you're gonna have to get through this.
Yeah.
Like there's no choice, like you just have to, and like you're alone, but you can figure it out because you can ask for help, from strangers. And also, in a lot of ways, I feel like travel has taught me or like reminded me the kindness of humanity. So I'm really grateful for this, that like people are actually so willing and like more willing than you expect sometimes to
Yeah.
help you. um and I love that about traveling, just like the human connection aspect, which obviously I'm very passionate about with my mission to fight adult loneliness, or just like loneliness in general. Just being able to connect with others. The other ways for me that I'm like grateful for travel is that it has like, I feel like when you think about school and like how we're all brought up in schooling, you always like can somewhat clearly recall year to year, think like it's distinguished by like the teachers that you've had, or like the classmates that you were surrounded with, or the classes, like every year was somewhat different. And these markers of life were imposed onto you, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's somewhat easy to say, like, I remember that semester in college when I was taking this ridiculous class and I had this like really annoying classmate or whatever. But then after you like transition to adulthood, everything becomes somewhat monotonous, and you're like, I just work in marketing. I've been in this marketing company for like 5 years. Like, I can't remember like, did that happen last year or did that happen this year? Like, I don't know. Like, every day is just the same. Right? Like, I've been working with my coworker who's been here for 15 years, and like, everything, yeah, like your memory starts to blur together because there's nothing to distinguish like markers of time passing. Essentially, you're like caught in this like time loop where you're like doing the same thing over and over. And I'm so grateful that I have travel in my life to interject and like mark mark my memories essentially. So I think for like the average person, it's gonna be like vacations, right? You're gonna be like, okay, then like I had my birthday, like whatever, my 26th birthday in Mexico, and then like that trip will help you remember, you know, your birthday and like that transition. But I've tried to, because th- I'm lucky enough to be able to like work remotely, try to design my life so that I have semesters in my life. So I travel to different places in like quarters essentially. So I stay in Dallas for 3 months and I go to other places for 3 months. I come back for 3 months. And then when I look back on this year, I can clearly say like, oh, I remember Spain in like quarter 1 of this year. And I remember the transformation I had, or like what happened to me when I was in Sevilla in February, and when I fell sick and these things. And so I'm really, really grateful that thanks to traveling and thanks to the fact that I have like constant change in my life and I'm interacting with this constant change, it's also making me more present because I realize that I'm not going to be here forever. Like, yes, I'll come back to Dallas, but like my time here in Dallas is about to end and I'm about to go to Tokyo. And when I'm in Tokyo, I'm going to be like, let me soak up as much of Tokyo as I can while I'm here. And most people
Yeah.
act this way, right? When they're on vacation, because they're like, I'm only in Paris for a week and I got to like experience it because I don't know when I'll be back. Um,
Hmm.
but because I'm constantly moving around, I'm like, yeah, like I love like Dallas. I don't know when I'll be like I don't, okay, let me reword that. I know when I'll be back in Dallas, but at the same time, like because I know it's not infinite time that I'm
Hmm.
spending in Dallas, like I still also want to enjoy it as it is right
Right.
now. If yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's like really shifted my perspective too.
Yeah. I love that.
Um yeah. Are you looking forward to anything? Are like with the end of the year?
I'm looking forward to like reflecting on my end of year and also planning for next year because I don't really think that I think this time last year I didn't really plan for this year. Like I just I know that you remember when I was in Taiwan and it was just like not a good experience for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So I'm like very excited to plan this new year because before we went on this call, I talked about maybe going to Europe and the idea sounds like exciting to me because that's when I first traveled by myself, and I just love how walkable Europe is, and
Mhm.
uh, well, some the places I went to in Europe, and just like being a different culture. And I also love how the buildings and everything looks there. So, like just imagining what could happen next year because I don't think I did this time last year. What
Right.
about you?
Yeah. I think, well, I'm Tokyo, but like also because I think that there will be a lot of downtime, is what I intend for this 2 weeks in Tokyo, that there will be time
Yeah.
for me to reflect and do some goal setting or like envisioning, for next year as well. And so I've already listed out like a bunch of things I want to do in my downtime in Tokyo, and I'm like almost I'm basically as excited to like have downtime to work through this list as I am to like be in Tokyo and like, you know, explore
Mhm.
and like take photos. Um, but I also wanted to ask you, do you do anything specific for your end of year review? Or do you just like have an open journal and you're just like free writing essentially?
Yeah. I think in the past, I've really liked going somewhere. I remember one year back when I was living in California, um, we watched, my friend and I watched the sunset together, and then the next day we watched a sunrise together. And personally, I think when I was living in Vegas, I would light like a candle. I was very into candles. So I'd probably like lit a bunch of candles in my apartment, and then I was also really into tarot and oracle cards at that time, so I probably pulled cards and then I journaled and probably did like a meditation and all of that stuff.
Wow, like a whole ritual. Do you think you're gonna do all of that again or like
I don't have like most of those things that I mentioned. I really want,
Yeah.
I've been telling myself to get a candle for like the longest time and I still have not gotten one. So maybe that's my action step for this week or this weekend to like actually get a candle. So, because I do like doing something, to set the mood of
Mm,
reflection and also goal setting.
right.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
about
yeah,
you?
yeah.
What about
I typically just look back at like my past. So for context, at the end of
you?
every month, I do like a month reflection, and then I do like goal setting for the upcoming month. And so what I want to do is basically look back at all these past months, and like the my journal entries for these past months, and kind of like see if I can extract data like a summary for the year. But I recently listened to a podcast by some new friends I met at a conference recently called the In Between podcast, or like In Between Pod. And they released like an episode somewhat recently regarding like how you can do a life audit using the wheel of life or a wellness wheel. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, that's actually a really good idea. So for listeners, this is basically just imagine like a pie chart. And you split it into like 7 or 8 pieces. And like each of these pieces reflect like an area of your life. So it would be like your friends and family is like a part of your life. And then you have finances, careers, like another part of your life, health and wellness is another part, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like what you do with it is that you basically just rank yourself, like how did you do, and you can set the time frame for like however long you want. But because this is an end of year review, I'm going to be doing it. I want to do this for like 2023, like look at how did I do in my social life, and then ask myself questions of like how can I improve that for next year, or like is there anything that I want to change about my like adventure, like how did I did I score myself highly on having adventure this year, or do I need to interject more adventure next year, so on and so forth. And so I think that's what I'm going to try this year, just like for fun. But I already have my idea for like my word of the next year, but I don't want to spill the beans too soon, because I know that the next time we do this, next time we record together, we're going to be doing an episode on our end of year review. So it's going to go out in January, but that's our homework. We're going to go review our year. All right, journal it or whatever. And then next time we come back on, we'll share with you like how we think we did in 2023 and some of our hopes and dreams for 2024. Was
Yeah.
there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
speaking of end of year, before I forget, our early bird prices for our Healing Girl spring break retreat in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, March 25th to 29th. So that's like a Monday to Friday. Um, the early bird pricing for $300 off is gonna end like midnight. I think PST, like midnight PST, December 31st. So basically, if you live in California or like that time zone, like at midnight, like as soon as it turns into like the new year, like that's the end of the early price offer for this retreat. Otherwise, if you are waiting until next year to decide, the full price is 1,500, which I think is like a great deal for a week. We are going to be doing so many restorative activities. I'm very excited. If you are someone who is like, I want to travel alone but not completely alone, then this is like exactly what you need, because maybe you'll be traveling into Puerto Vallarta alone, but then you'll be received by strangers, I guess, like us, but like to be friends. And I think that's like the best like intermediary between like between like a solo trip, which I
Mhm.
think I'm gonna do like a true solo trip as an aside next year for my 30th birthday. But like an intermediary between like a true solo trip, but then versus like a trip with friends that you already know and you like have already met. Because this basically gives you a context where you can meet new friends in like a safe space. That makes sense. So,
Do you feel like
yeah.
making friends as you get older is becomes more difficult, and also making friends who have similar values and just like are on the same page, kind of?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, I do appreciate that about like both my community, Don't Be Strangers, you like our friendship too, like our alignment in values. I
Mhm.
feel it like just being full circle, like everything that I surround myself with and in my life. And so I'm really excited for the retreat to basically bring more people in who are either already part of my community or just like new people who are being introduced to you, Molly, as an individual, and me as like someone who like runs events now, and like which I'm still like, wait, how did I get here? Like how am I running events? um
Yeah.
but like someone who like organizes events, but overall everyone who is very aligned in valuing community and like and just like fighting a loneliness and just being like, we just want to connect with like other authentic people who care about, you know, self-reflection, personal development, and then actually like authentic listening, like genuine listening and vulnerable sharing. I think, yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what this is gonna be. Awesome. All right. Well, then I will talk to you everyone very soon. Okay. Bye, Molly.
Bye. Bye, Shingy.
Okay.